Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Rowell. All right, we are on day 4 of our table for the living room, and let me review where we are. As you probably recall, the last thing we did was to attach the face piece to this side. You remember we did this side down here a couple days ago, but I wanted to bring it in, figure out exactly where to cut this piece, because I intentionally made this piece a little bit longer than it needed to be, so that, because like I said before, you can always cut it shorter, you can't cut it longer. So this thing has actually been clamped down now for 3 days, because I've been at work for the last 3 days, so that should be well bonded, should never ever come off. So I'm going to take this thing off now. We're going to route this piece, sides and top and bottom and all around it, and then we're going to get going from there. Alright, got that piece routed smooth now. I got to do a little sanding here as usual, because I can still feel a little bit of a level change here between these two pieces of wood, and of course that reflects itself here with the flush cutting router and another one here, but that's okay. We'll be able to smooth that off real well. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of sanding going on. Next thing I need to do is put the fronting piece here, which is going to be the face of the front of it, and so we're going to attach that one now. And first thing I got to do, since it's about 1.5 inches longer than it needs to be, is I'm going to run it through the table saw there to trim it down a little bit. So let's start with that. Alright, I got the edging piece on, or at least most of it. Got it trimmed down a little bit, so it's about 1/8 of an inch or so wider than the board is thick. Got it clamped down really good. We're going to let it dry for a little while. Now, I kind of discovered by accident that the edging piece I got is not the full length of the board. I guess I didn't get a 12-foot long edging piece. I got an 11-foot long edging piece. So what I'm going to have to do is do this one separately and then butt it together. But I think we'll make that work. It'll look good. I don't think you'll even be able to see it that well. I'll cover it up really well. And at this point, I'm going to let this thing dry for an hour or two, and we'll come back, put that other piece on, route it all off, and hopefully get some of the edging done today. So I'll see you in a couple hours. Alright, a couple hours have passed by. I got the front faceplate on, and I've already actually gone through and routed it down so it's nice and smooth, or at least as smooth as it's going to get before I do all my tons and tons of sanding. So this is kind of generally what the thing is going to look like. Like I said, there'll be a little backsplash. It'll stick up in the back, but this is what it's going to look like. It'll be a little different color because the stain I've chosen is something called golden oak, and I've used that before. If you've seen the desk that I have in the living room, that's stained using the same color. So it'll be a little bit more of a yellow color, and it'll definitely be a lot shinier because I'm going to use a high gloss acrylic coating to protect the finish afterwards. So next thing I got to do is I got a nice little rounding bit here, and we want to take these sharp edges here and round them off. That'll make it look really nice. And that's basically the end of the raw assembly at this point. After that, it's just sanding and finishing and doing all that stuff, and that'll just take some time. But I think after I get it rounded off on all the edges, I am going to move it back into the house, and we're going to do one more final fit in before we go any further, just to make sure. Not that it's going to be really that easy to do anything at this point. If it's too little, if it's too little, I'm out of luck. We're going to have to live with it. If it's too big, even there, it might be a little hard to trim it off a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to have to. I pretty closely measured it from inside there, and it should look pretty good. So let me get that routing process done, and I'll catch up with you in a few minutes. Alright, it probably doesn't look like it a whole lot now, but basically I've gone along this edge, and this is no longer a right angle edge. I've kind of smoothed it off and made it kind of rounded. You don't want to have kind of a sharp edge on the edge of your furniture. That's just something that you're likely to get hurt on. But I think it looks a lot nicer. This is kind of what you want. Got a little discoloration there from the router originally. But we're going to smooth this off even more with the sanding when we get to that point. But I think before we go any further, what I want to do now is move this thing back into the house and do one final fit in before we before we go any further. Like I said, it's a little late to do anything if it isn't right, but I just want to see it in place. So that's what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to muscle this bad boy in the house. All right, here we go. Got the final fit in. It looks like it's going to look really good here. This piece is still a little bit longer than it has to be, but what I really wanted to do is line up the edge here with this edge here so that this little piece of crown molding stuck out. And if you look at it, they line up pretty well. So that's going to be good. I also kind of marked, kind of positioned this thing. I actually made sure when we get over here on this side that this side is perfectly flush. And I've made the mark on this side now where I can cut the thing. So I'll be able to cut this piece and get this thing right to the right size. And actually I got to flip this one over because this one's gonna, I remember I pointed out that there's a little wood damage here on the top and I want to hide that. So we're gonna flip that one over again. But I'll be able to cut that now and we'll be able to get that fit in just right also. So let's get this bad boy out in the garage, and next thing we're going to start doing is some sanding. That's going to take some time and it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright, so I've spent an hour on this thing with my orbital sander and a 100 grit sandpaper pad. This is kind of just the rough point of smoothing off all the edges. You may recall how I mentioned that there was like some differences in level across some of the pieces of wood here. I've largely gotten rid of that. I still feel a little bit here, but this is all really smooth. And really I've gotten about 99% of the lack of levelness off of the levelness. Is that even a word? I don't know, whatever. I've leveled it out significantly, and there's still a little bit of area. There's some little gaps here that I'm going to have to put in with some wood filler and kind of fill that in. But I've got about 99% of this level now and ready to go. So I think we're going to probably end this video today. It's starting to get a little dark out. I've got a cold front coming in, so I actually closed the garage door because it's a little cold out there right now. It's supposed to get into the 20s tonight. So yikes, that's cold, huh? But I think we're going to pick this one up again tomorrow. We'll do a little bit more leveling. We'll fill in some of the gaps here with some wood sealant and get this thing ready to go. We'll once I've got it really perfectly smoothed down and all of the little holes and stuff like that filled, then what we'll do is we'll go over it again with a fine grit. I've got a 220 grit and a 320 grit sandpaper that we'll go over with it, and maybe we'll get to start staining this tomorrow. So it's looking really good. I'm very, very pleased with it so far. And I think it's going to look really nice when we get this done. So I'm going to pull the plug on this video tonight. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.